Okay, the American Godzilla movies are amazing, like the last few to come out, but apparently in order for them to get rights to make Godzilla movies, they had to make a deal with Toho where Godzilla could literally never die. That's like the one rule for all the movies. So Gojicenter brought up an interesting point over here. What if Godzilla had no plot armor? Because he literally does have plot armor. Like there's literally a legally binding deal that says Godzilla can't be killed in the movies. I'm pretty sure. I never looked into it. I'm not a lawyer. So this is pretty exciting. Let's go ahead and see what happens when Godzilla is exposed to nonsense. I'm dying from allergies right now. Oh my god. Check out Gojicenter, link down below. Leave a like, subscribe, and let's do it. What if Godzilla had no plot armor? My Gojicenter voice.
A lot of you who watched this probably wondered, what if Kong decided not to save Godzilla? In this video, we will go
probably would have died, right?
5 instances where the G-Man was saved by the supernatural phenomenon known as plot armor, and quickly explore what the consequences would have been had Godzilla perished at the hands of these titans. If this is your first time here, or if you keep coming back because you love these videos, then please take a split second to subscribe and hit that like button so we can fill your feed with epic kaiju carnage.
I have opinions. We should all subscribe. That's a fact. And I'm sure this video's got some amazing stuff I can't wait to look at. But to be honest, in Godzilla vs. Kong, if I'm thinking about it, I feel like Kong had some crazy plot armor. Like so many times that monkey just got spared. Like when Godzilla dragged him down deep, he should have drowned. Numerous times he could have drowned and just died in various ways. So Kong definitely has an insane amount of plot armor too.
Coming up, the story of Godzilla without plot armor.
Oh my god.
Number 1, Godzilla vs. Mutos.
Huh.
To begin our plot armorless set of stories, we will travel back in time to 2014. During this point in the Monsterverse timeline, the world witnessed monsters of titanic proportions battle it out in Honolulu, Hawaii, and in San Francisco, California.
Woo.
It is here, however, where the G-Man pulled up to not just 1, but 2 Mutos who came together to bring about the next generation of Muto species. So here's where the infamous plot armor comes into play. Godzilla engages in combat with the female Muto, overwhelming her with his superior weight, pushing her back until she finally succumbs and was at the mercy of Godzilla.
Goddamn.
As the G-Man winds up a decisive strike, the male comes in and allows them both to seize the opportunity and team up against an ambushed Godzilla. In this clip, Godzilla seemed overwhelmed by the Muto pair, getting continuously stabbed while he's pinned against the ground. But meanwhile, the extraction team that Halo jumped a few moments earlier recovered the warhead that was feeding the Muto nest. But Lieutenant Brody here saw the opportunity to light up the Muto nest, killing all their offspring. It just so happened that this took place just when the Mutos were overwhelming Godzilla, distracting the pair from working as one to finish off the G-Man. This in turn allowed him to fight these Mutos individually for some time, which resulted in a win for Godzilla.
I mean, I understand how it was the plot coming together to help Godzilla. It never really occurred to me that Godzilla might have died right there. I thought he was just gonna get really pissed off and then you start seeing his tail light up and then I was like, oh shit. At the same time, though, if they didn't blow up that nest, like 1,000 Mutos would have hatched, and that for sure would have killed Godzilla and the entire planet. That bastard ruined everything. And the dude is literally married to Scarlet Witch in this movie. He's taking everything from us.
Later on, we see that Godzilla saved Ford Brody's life before getting killed by the female Muto. Of course, unintentionally, but the point remains. Had Ford not set fire to the Muto's nest, the result would have potentially been a dead or at least a critically injured Godzilla.
I could settle was critically injured.
Equipped with sharp weapons that, if used correctly, could pierce deep into Godzilla's flesh. A prolonged duration of repetitive stabs would have potentially led to Godzilla bleeding to death.
See, that's legitimately, I could back that for sure. Because Mutos literally evolved to be the Godzilla killers. That's like their entire place in the ecosystem is to be against Godzilla. So, of course, if anything could kill a Godzilla, it's those things.
And the worst part, these two successfully breeding and causing a worldwide Muto invasion. Up next, Godzilla will need a different type of help against the most powerful Muto of all time.
Yes, dude!
Number
Anytime
2,
Prime is mentioned, I'm so
Godzilla
happy.
versus Muto Prime. After the events of 2014, Godzilla would combat the most powerful Muto specimen, Muto Prime, also known as Titanus Jinshin Mushi. This colossal animal emerged from the depths to feed on radioactive sources such as warships and submarines which housed nuclear warheads. Godzilla, knowing that this type of titan was a blood-sworn enemy of his own kind, engages in a long pursuit after the Muto Prime. After several small skirmishes between the two titans, these monsters faced off for the last time in the Beartooth Mountains in Montana.
Beartooth Mountains.
To note is that while the Muto Prime was evading Godzilla, she was getting stronger day by day thanks to all the radiation sources she was consuming during this pursuit.
You know what's exciting is the new TV show confirmed the live-action Godzilla show takes place after the 2014 movie, which is exactly when this comic takes place. I will my pants if it's a Muto Prime TV show.
At last, the time came when Muto was strong enough to hold her ground against Godzilla. During this fierce fight, the Muto Prime unleashes its signature sonic roar, a roar so powerful that it is specifically tuned to shatter Godzilla's dorsal plate. Before the Muto could go in and inflict further injuries to the G-Man, Emma Russell, with the help of others, hooked up an Orca prototype and emitted sounds that distract the Muto for enough time to help Godzilla get up, take a breather, and recover from this massive wound. In a few moments, Godzilla would have picked up the Muto and critically injured it with its atomic pulse.
Okay, this scene I've gotten so many arguments on. I need the comment section to help me decide. Can Godzilla literally shoot its atomic pulse out of his back, or did this happen because its dorsal spikes were shattered, so the pulse was unable to travel up his back, so it just exploded out of its back? I've always said the second one. The pulse just kind of couldn't make it to his mouth because his dorsal spikes were shattered, but I don't know. Will we ever know?
But what if Dr. Emma Russell didn't amplify this sonic frequency to distract the Muto Prime?
He'd have died.
Well, we kind of already have an idea of how these giant Mutos deal with defeated Godzillas. A long time ago, another Titanus Gojira specimen, dubbed as Dagon, was defeated by another Muto Prime. But instead of killing it, it implanted these two spores in its flank, which would later give birth to the two Mutos discussed previously. So back to our present-day Muto, she would have done the exact same thing to our present-day Godzilla.
I just clicked in my brain that means those Mutos were siblings. We witnessed bug incest. Ew, dude, gross.
Implanting brand new Muto eggs, which would have fed on Godzilla until he died. Had the Muto Prime succeeded here, she would have fixed the error of this Muto pair at failing to give birth to the next generation of Mutos and terraforming the planet. But thankfully, this was never the case, thanks to the good old plot armor. Up next, Godzilla will need a lot more than just one dose of plot armor against a much bigger Titan.
Okay, here there was a decent amount of plot armor against Monster Zero. Monster Zero could have just flown a little bit higher and let Godzilla drift off into orbit. Like, he could fly into space no problem, can't he?
Number 3,
could happen.
G-Man versus Ghidorah. Moving forward in time, we find ourselves in 2019 when Godzilla faced off against Ghidorah. This story is a bit interesting because we see that Godzilla was not initially handicapped by another Titan, but by humans. Yes, during their second confrontation, humanity launched a prototype weapon known as the Oxygen Destroyer, which weakened Godzilla so much that he had to drag his way back to his lair and recover, potentially for a very long time. Meanwhile, his rival remained unscathed and went on to unleash worldwide calamity unlike the world had ever seen. After humans realized that they had almost killed their best shot against Ghidorah, they decided to fix things with another bomb, this one being a nuke. Some may argue that this instance wasn't so much plot armor, but the next one is. In the Battle of Boston,
what's the next one?
We bore witness as Ghidorah carried Godzilla and dropped him from many thousands of feet in the air, weakening him for enough time for Ghidorah to inflict a decisive blow. But here's how that was stopped. While the Russells witnessed this fall, they quickly huddled up to repair a damaged Orca in an attempt to amplify a frequency that would distract Ghidorah from finishing off Godzilla.
See, now this is kind of sounding like lazy writing, because now that's like twice in like 5 years that Emma Russell has saved Godzilla with the Orca. Like, now that she's gone, Godzilla's got nobody.
Similar to the previous case with Muto Prime, except Dr. Emma Russell, who once again used this type of device to save the G-Man, perished this time. In this story, 2 humans gave up their lives to save the G-Man, not to mention Mothra. But what if these guys didn't reactivate the Orca? In the official novelization, it explicitly mentions how this orange glow Godzilla was emitting would grow fainter every time Ghidorah bit into the G-Man while it was healing its own wounds, suggesting that at some point Ghidorah would have killed the G-Man right here had this Orca not been activated to distract Ghidorah. So yes, it turns out that humanity came in clutch once again to save Godzilla in this instance.
Emma Russell, dude, she's awesome.
Perished here, all the Titans in the world would have continued their path of destruction and perhaps instigated the extinction of all humanity. In these past 3 instances, we have seen how humans came in to save Godzilla. But the next thing to save Godzilla would have taken a more natural form.
What?
Number 4, Godzilla versus Tiamat. This is a Titan that was featured in the graphic novel Godzilla Dominion. A very long Titan armed with corrosive acidic discharges and with some very sharp bladed fins, which
we just never use that word again. I'm sorry to interrupt here, but discharges? Really? I just ate discharges. God, disgusting.
are able to cut deep into Titan hides. In the novel, Godzilla decided to retreat to one of his older lairs, but was now occupied by Titaness Tiamat. In this fight, there are no humans around to aid Godzilla in combat, or to help him recuperate if he is downed by the opposing Titan. The book tells us that Tiamat was a superior combatant in the water, and in order to get out of this one alive, Godzilla realized that he needed to fight on land. The problem here is that these two were continuously being siphoned deeper into the ocean. That's deeper into where Tiamat fights best. As the situation drifted further from the G-Man's favor, it turns out that they were both being siphoned into an air pocket in the depths of the sea, allowing Godzilla to once again fight on dry land. Here, Godzilla exercised his terrestrial prowess and swiftly defeated Tiamat to submit. But what if these Titans weren't siphoned into this cave system? Things would have looked a bit grim for Godzilla. Given the nature and behavior of these Titans, there are 2 possible outcomes for this scenario. 1, Godzilla taps out of the fight and concedes defeat against Tiamat, cementing the rival as the new alpha and potentially starting a whole new world cataclysmic event once again like Ghidorah.
Jesus!
Given that Titaness Tiamat is likely a malevolent Titan. But would Godzilla really submit? Quite frankly, this behavior would be out of character for the G-Man. Which leads us to the other conclusion. Number 2, Godzilla fights to the death. Being bested underwater is no fun way to go. But if Godzilla had no other option than finding his footing underwater, a likely outcome would have been Godzilla perishing underwater.
Jesus!
Of course, not accounting for his atomic breath ability, which would have easily gotten him out of this one alive.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, eventually he's just gonna grab it and just like slice his head off with atomic breath. The atomic breath saves the day all the time.
Up next, we have another scenario where Godzilla is saved, but by another Titan. Number 5, G-Man versus Mechagodzilla.
I always think about this like when the little girl's like, Godzilla's friend, or save Godzilla, whatever she says. What if Kong was like, I have no idea what Godzilla means. You never taught me that sign language. And then he just walked away and Godzilla got slaughtered. That could have totally happened.
Going back to more recent events, we find Godzilla duking it out against this mechanized Titan engineered to be Godzilla's superior. Or an attempt at that. After being worn out from his fight against Kong and blasting a hole through the earth, Godzilla now does not have sufficient energy and stamina to face a brand new Titan, who easily overwhelms him in both melee weapons and atomic weaponry as well. Previous to this matchup, Godzilla had defeated Kong and had him so worn out that his body began to give up on him, and his heartbeat began to fade out, canceling this guy from any ongoing fight. Now, back to the Godzillas, Mecha G now holds Godzilla in a position where he can blast his proton scream down Godzilla's mouth and end the G-Man once and for all. But it was this guy who came in, raised Mechagodzilla's mouth, and redirected this proton scream away from Godzilla at just the right moment. We must mention, however, that it was this dude, Nathan Lind, who somehow miraculously activated some self-destruct protocol on the Heave and used that power as a defibrillator of sorts to resurrect Kong, which then, after some quick convincing, saved Godzilla.
See, that's what I mean. Kong had so much plot armor. I'm happy the monkey didn't die. That would have been so freaking sad. But like, why does that spaceship have a self-destruct? But aren't those like bajillion-dollar ships? It's nonsense, dude.
In retrospect, a lot could have gone wrong here. If Godzilla decided to end Kong here, there would have been no one to stop Mechagodzilla from killing the G-Man. But let's say Kong decided not to help the Titan that just recently dragged his ass all over Hong Kong.
Damn.
He would then be tasked with fighting a much larger mechanized Titan by himself, with nobody to power this axe, leaving Mechagodzilla with an estimated 24 hours of energy to inflict death and destruction to surrounding cities or other populated areas.
That's all it's got?
Name any other instances when plot armor came for Godzilla's rescue? Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and check us out on Beast Hub, a podcast for all things kaiju, dinosaurs, and more.
That's epic as hell. I don't mean to sound like a selfish bastard, but like 24 hours, that thing's not making it to Los Angeles in 24 hours. I'm totally safe. The fear of Mechagodzilla just dropped to 0 for me. There's literally no chance. Either way, that was awesome. Godzilla's always gonna have a crap ton of plot armor, and he honestly might have died a few times for sure, especially to Monster Zero. But I don't know, they all sort of would. Kong would have died a bunch. Rodan got stabbed in the chest. I guess Ghidorah was pretty much fine till the end. A lot of them didn't, but I guess some of just our main kaiju did. I'm pretty sure Legendary has no deal with Toho regarding keeping Kong alive though, so I am, plus they have like talks of making a Kong Sun franchise, so I'm severely worried about the life of Kong, that's for sure. That dude may die soon. But yeah, make sure to subscribe to Gojicenter down below because they're coming up on 1 million and that's amazing. Leave a like, subscribe here too, and I'll see you next time.